And there's one last story in this game I need to touch on, the most powerful moment in the entire journey. You see, at one point you travel to a location called the Blade Grave, which is currently under the onslaught of the Edict of Storms, which ravages the lands with non-stop winds, lightning, and rain. The edict was placed in the Blade Grave, part of the Stalwart Zone, due to a man named Stratus Herodon, regent to the lands, who during a battle abandoned his post and hid behind the castle walls. And for his cowardice, Kairos demanded all of the regent's bloodline be killed, or the lands would suffer forever. The regent had a strong band of followers though, who all protect him and his castle from any potential invader. And so as the man or woman who must end edicts, it's your job to go to Stratus and solve the situation. This takes you on a long journey talking to different factions and eventually fighting your way to the throne room where Stratus sits. You can try to convince the man to off himself, to save that one bit of honor he has left inside of him in order to stop the pain of so many others in the Blade Grave. But your words do not get through to him. Out of his own hubris, Stratus refuses to believe anyone can lead his peoples as well as him. And you also pick up on a sense of hopelessness and him being afraid of something. Stratus is afraid to die, to give up on himself and sacrifice for the greater good, just as he was afraid to do before. But even in those last moments, you begin to feel sorry for Stratus. But it must be done, and you slaughter him before his very own people. Strangely though, in that moment, the edict does not stop, and instead the storm ravages on. Confused, you look between yourself and your party as to what has happened, and that's when the big twist comes. Graven Ash's daughter shows herself to you and proclaims her loyalty to Stratus and his people, and reveals to you the horrifying truth of what you missed. She had a baby with Stratus, a baby that carries the bloodline of this pitiful regent. And by the own proclamations of the Edict of Storms, it may only end when this regent's bloodline is finished. And so it's at this moment that you realize Stratus was protecting not only himself, but the life of an innocent child. So as you walk over to the baby's crib, you are met with one of the most appalling choices in a game. Do you slaughter this innocent baby as it lies wrapped in its blanket whining, in order to stop the spell that ravages the lands and thrusts thousands into pain and turmoil? Or do you let one life live at the expense of an entire region of this great world? This baby has done no wrong. It has killed no one and done no evil, and it just lost its father. And yet, because of the evil actions of one man who simply didn't know how to handle the situations he was in, this baby must now suffer the ultimate punishment by proxy. It's a perfect example of the twisted nature of evil. By killing this baby, we become a monster, someone that other characters who we've grown to love can barely look at. But it can also be argued that this is the right choice, because if you do kill the baby, then the storm will end and an entire generation of thousands of innocent people can thrive. Sometimes evil occurs because we have no choice, whether it be for survival or what we see as the greater good. The exact same situation you could argue Kairos is in, and another moment in this game that shows just how deep its themes and story go. There's actually another choice as well in this moment, where if you have a high enough lore stat, you can remind everyone and the mother that they can simply pronounce the baby as abdicating the throne, and thus the edict will end. But this choice somewhat takes away from the power of the moment. And while I personally love when games give you decisions like this, where your character build can massively help you in certain situations, I can also see how this would ruin an otherwise fantastic moment of storytelling. What it doesn't ruin, however, is the ideas that this game puts into your head, about what it means to even be a god of the people, about ancient civilizations and lost technology, and whether we should be messing around with such great power, about the nature of true evil and why some people commit acts others could never imagine, about the humanity of simply trying to survive in a world so wrought with chaos, about playing as the bad guy and choosing to plunge deeper into madness in order to achieve a greater goal, or instead foregoing your power in order to do what you see as right. Tyranny makes us ask some of the most fundamental questions in life, all wrapped into an awesome story with so much choice and consequence that multiple playthroughs are essentially a must to get the most out of the game. And while the game also falters on so many fronts, like combat and user experience in the menus and inventory, there are so many cool ideas from this game that deserve more love and recognition. And more than anything else I've played from Obsidian Entertainment, this game specifically showed me just how versatile this studio can really be. I hope one day Tyranny can get the big budget sequel it deserves, where we can finally meet Kairos on the battlefield of gods and learn more about the ancient secrets and philosophies of one of the greatest RPGs of all time that almost no one knows about.